Donald Trump has always prided himself on being the champion of the working class, the anti-establishment hero who would drain the swamp and deliver a better future for Americans. His supporters, the MAGA base, have long viewed him as their voice, the man who would break the grip of Washington elites and bring a new era of peace, prosperity, and accountability. However, in a stunning twist, Trump has made a series of appointments that have left his most loyal followers reeling in disbelief. These selections, many of whom are longtime political insiders and neoconservatives, have betrayed the very principles that once made him the darling of the populist movement. In this video, we will dive deep into how Trump's latest moves have enraged his base and why many MAGA supporters now feel abandoned by the man they once hailed as the only leader who could restore America's greatness. From the shocking appointment of war hawks to the embrace of establishment figures like Marco Rubio, it's clear that the Trump we once knew may be a thing of the past. But what does this mean for Trump's future and for the future of his loyal supporters? Let's break it down. Trump's campaign rhetoric versus his appointments. During his campaign, Donald Trump made several bold promises that appealed to the American electorate, particularly those who were disillusioned with the political establishment. One of his most striking claims was that he would bring an end to the endless wars that had plagued U.S. foreign policy for decades. His promises to pull out of conflicts in the Middle East, negotiate peace deals for Ukraine, and de-escalate tensions with adversaries like North Korea resonated deeply with his supporters, who were tired of seeing American troops sent into wars with no clear objectives. However, in the wake of his election victory, Trump has made a series of appointments that have left many scratching their heads. One of the most jarring decisions was his selection of John Bolton, a former Fox News host and military veteran, as his defense secretary. Bolton is known for his hawkish stance on foreign policy and his firm belief in the use of military force to achieve U.S. objectives. His appointment marks a stark departure from Trump's campaign rhetoric, which promised a more isolationist approach and a commitment to keeping America out of unnecessary conflicts. But the appointment of Bolton is just the beginning. Trump has surrounded himself with individuals who advocate for aggressive foreign interventions and military action as the solution to nearly every problem. These figures, often labeled as neoconservatives, are notorious for their support of regime change wars, the expansion of the military-industrial complex, and the belief that American power should be wielded without hesitation. The MAGA base, which once saw Trump as the antithesis of these establishment hawks, is now left to wonder if they have been sold out. The Marco Rubio dilemma. Another key appointment that has caused a stir within the MAGA community is the potential selection of Marco Rubio for a prominent role in the administration, possibly as Secretary of State. Rubio, a Florida senator who has long been associated with the establishment wing of the Republican Party, is not exactly beloved by the MAGA crowd. His hawkish foreign policy views and willingness to engage in military interventions make him a polarizing figure among Trump's most ardent supporters. During his 2016 presidential campaign, Rubio was frequently criticized for his establishment ties and his perceived lack of authenticity. His support for interventionist policies, including military action in Syria and Venezuela, stands in stark contrast to Trump's campaign promises of non-interventionism and a focus on domestic issues. Rubio's track record of supporting military intervention in the Middle East and his close ties to the political elite make him an unlikely ally for the populist movement that Trump built his brand on. Yet, in what can only be described as a shocking turn of events, Trump has reportedly considered Rubio for a top position in his administration. This move has left many of Trump's most loyal supporters feeling betrayed and disillusioned. They see Rubio as a symbol of everything they despise about the Republican Party, a career politician more interested in maintaining his power than serving the needs of the American people. The idea that Trump, who once promised to drain the swamp, would appoint Rubio, a quintessential member of the establishment, is nothing short of a slap in the face to the MAGA base. The rise of the war hawks. One of the most concerning aspects of Trump's recent appointments is the increasing influence of war hawks within his inner circle. These individuals, who advocate for aggressive military action and a robust global interventionist policy, are now playing a central role in shaping Trump's foreign policy. Among the most notable hawks in Trump's orbit is Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State under Trump, who has long been a proponent of using military force to advance U.S. interests abroad. Pompeo's hawkish stance was evident during his time at the State Department, where he pushed for a hardline approach toward countries like Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela. He was a vocal advocate for regime change and military intervention, even going so far as to suggest that the U.S. should take action against Iran to prevent the country from acquiring nuclear weapons. While Trump publicly criticized Pompeo during his campaign, promising not to bring him back into his administration, many insiders have reported that Pompeo is still a key player in Trump's decision-making process. The appointment of Pompeo and other war hawks to key positions has raised concerns among Trump's base, who fear that the president is abandoning his promise to end America's involvement in foreign conflicts. For many MAGA supporters, the idea of a President Trump embracing the very figures who led the U.S. into disastrous wars in the Middle East is a betrayal of everything they believed in. These voters see Trump's shift toward militarism as a sign that he is no longer the outsider he once claimed to be, but rather just another establishment figure who is willing to play the same dangerous game of military interventionism that has defined U.S. foreign policy for decades. The fallout, MAGA fury, and betrayal. The fallout from Trump's appointments has been swift and severe. MAGA supporters, who once believed in Trump's promise to fight for the people, now find themselves questioning his commitment to their cause. Many are furious that Trump, who built his political identity on a platform of anti-war rhetoric, has surrounded himself with individuals who advocate for military action at every turn. For these voters, Trump's decision to appoint war hawks and career politicians represents a betrayal of the values that made him a hero to the populist movement. The anger is palpable among Trump supporters, particularly those who supported him through the 2016 election and beyond. These voters are disillusioned by Trump's decision to embrace the very people who have spent years perpetuating the failed policies of the Washington elite. For them, the promise of America First now feels like an empty slogan as they watch their hero make appointments that will only serve to perpetuate the status quo. Trump's contradictions, campaign promises versus reality. As we look at Trump's appointments and his shifting foreign policy stance, it's clear that there is a stark contrast between his campaign promises and the reality of his administration. During the 2016 election, Trump campaigned on a platform of peace and non-interventionism. He promised to bring American troops home from the Middle East and the endless wars and focus on rebuilding the country from within. Yet, in the years since his election, Trump has repeatedly made decisions that contradict these promises. From his appointment of war hawks like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo to his embrace of establishment figures like Marco Rubio, Trump has surrounded himself with individuals who represent the very forces he once claimed to oppose. These appointments have left many of his supporters questioning whether they were sold a lie. For those who believed that Trump would be the man to end America's foreign entanglements and bring peace to the world, the reality of his appointments has been a bitter pill to swallow. Donald Trump's recent appointments of war hawks and career politicians have sparked outrage among his most loyal supporters. What was once a movement driven by anti-establishment sentiment and a desire for peace has now been overtaken by figures who advocate for military interventionism and the perpetuation of the status quo. For many MAGA supporters, Trump's decision to embrace these individuals represents a betrayal of the very principles that brought them to his side in the first place. As the dust settles on Trump's latest decisions, it remains to be seen how this will affect his relationship with his base. Will his supporters continue to stand by him, or will they turn away in frustration as they realize that Trump is no longer the outsider they once believed in? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: Trump's betrayal of his base is sure to have long-lasting consequences for his political future.